Hey, how's it going, guys? Domino Paris 21 here, and back again with another episode of Meta Talk. So I kind of forgot to continue on with these Meta Talk videos ever since Set 13 came out, but better late than never, I guess. So yes, so for this episode, we're going to be talking about Reverse Daiyusha, of course, a new boss unit for D-Police post Set 13. And of course, since this is D-Police we're talking about, I decided to actually have one of my fellow D-Police local players join in on the action here. We got Lord African.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, so he's been featured here and there on my channel and such, but he is like the D-Police guy in our area.
I've got almost, at one point in time, I think I had like, what, 4 or 5 D-Police decks, nothing but...
As many Kagero decks I have.
Yeah, as many of you have Kagero decks, I had as many Dimensional Police decks.
And this guy, and the thing with Lord African here, he doesn't just live D-Police, he lives Giant Robots. Hence
I do.
The card here.
Well, it's not really Giant Robots, but, you know, Power Rangers, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Gamba Ride. Oh yeah, dude. But gotta get Gamba Ride. Gotta get my W and Tajador combo card in there.
So of course, if I had to get someone else to help me out with this, it's got to be Mr. Giant Robot Freak Man here. That's a compliment, by the way.
Oh my God, Giant Robot!
So yes, now before we get started with a little bit of our analysis and such, Lord African. So pretty much, since you love D-Police so much, what is it with D-Police that you love so much that kind of differentiates them from other clans out there?
The big thing is about D-Police is that it's mainly focused on the Vanguard. It's pumping the Vanguard, giving it a lot of power, and from all that power, getting whatever type of skill you need for that situation.
And get in there.
I mean, whether it's getting extra crits, well, it's pretty much either an extra crit or like restanding. No, it's extra crits, restanding rear guards, destroying rear guards,
or in this case,
minusing your opponent power, which is just deadly.
It could be considered powering up your Vanguard.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean,
pretty much
that's what giant robots do.
Oh, we gotta get stronger and stronger and explode with awesomeness.
Yeah, so it's a very pressuring clan, and definitely can bring a lot of reward, with their center line.
High risk, high reward, but when it pays off, oh, it's just so satisfying.
And it's definitely not a fun clan to be on the other side against a lot of the time. So
it really isn't.
A lot of us have been victims. My buddy Josh here, who's just an innocent bystander, has been a victim of us.
I'm so sorry for the things I've done to you.
I said hi to the guy, and then he punched me with 3 crits in the face. It was a sad day for me.
So yeah,
go guard it. That's your own problem.
So of course, being in the spirit of Set 13, we are going to be talking a little bit more Reverse Daiyusha right here. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually get started. So providing the analysis of my typical 3 categories, like I say, that helps to, I think, label a competitive deck. Pressure, advantage, consistency. Now, starting off with pressure, Lord African, how much can Reverse Daiyusha pressure your opponent in terms of the deck overall? So overall,
by himself, Reverse Daiyusha, obviously his skill is
Counterblast 1.
It's Counterblast 1 because I'm looking at this upside down. I can't see it. Counterblast 1, lock 2 Dimensional Robos, minus your opponent 10k power. That's just devastating because again, even if you're cross-ridden, you're still at a 3k Vanguard. If you're sitting on it for whatever reason you're playing a 10k Vanguard, you're at 0. If for some reason you're at less than 10, you're going negative. You know, it's
big numbers, man.
It's big numbers. It's pretty, you know, you could say that's just a plus 10 for you. Yeah. But then again though, now I have a rear guard. My support card on the rear guard hits for 12 to your 11 to your 1 now. Okay, now you're dropping 10 by itself without me having to boost or anything.
So all of a sudden, those shields you had that you thought were good, all of a sudden they rose up in price. They've been inflated.
And if you do happen to break ride. Oh,
Daikaiser is really what brings the pressure up in this deck in compliments to Reverse Daiyusha.
So, and I think almost everyone knows what Daikaiser does. After when you break ride, plus 10k, plus 1 crit, and you get the skill if you drive trick a grade 3, you destroy something in the Guardian Circle, which is again having someone drop 2 perfect guards, it does provide a lot more pressure toward the opponent, making them drop a lot more because they become a lot more cautious.
So awkward for them.
Oh yeah.
It's like, damn it, I just have this perfect guard, but I don't know if I should just perfect guard and hope you don't kill me, or I just throw out more.
See guys, what you do is you play it smart by perfect guarding and go grade 3 for lose. Yeah.
He's been a victim of that. But I think
somebody here has been a victim of perfect guarding with 2 perfect guards and getting them both blown up.
That's why you have to believe.
And then once that happens one time, psychologically, when you play against the deck again, you just think of it again and again.
It's painful.
But of course, I think what really brings on the pressure of the deck is, well, Mr. Commander right here.
The Commander, yes.
Excuse me, Kurumi.
Kurumi, you gotta go away for a second.
Don't kill me.
So, I know, at least in both of our decks, we play this a little bit differently. I'm actually not running him with reverse Daiyusha anymore. Because one, you have to, for his skill, you have to lock a D-Robo, and 2, you're locking 2 units, so you can't make use of his effect. That being said, I have run him before. He works really well when you put him in the column behind Die Dragon.
12k attacker.
12k attacker, so he's hitting for 16 versus a 1. Okay, that's still 15k shield. It still hits numbers. I'm experimenting with different builds.
I know Commander Laurel's not necessarily always a staple, necessarily for Deep Please decks, but I mean, as you guys know by deck profile, get out of here, Emmy. Have you guys seen my deck profile? I do run 4 of these for one particular reason. Now, for this particular deck, especially how I guess I built it, this deck has 3 layers of pressure, I'd say. Now, you have Commander Laurel as that early mid-game pressure to threaten your opponent with their potential restanding Vanguard. Which is the main reason why I run 4 of him, just so I can draw him, so I can open with him consistently to be able to do that. You have Daikaiser, which kind of, once you hit limit break, you have another way to pressure your opponent, make it awkward for them to guard and such, and also at the same time, combining with Daikaiser with Laurel can be really awkward for your opponent, especially, a lot of times they'll be sitting pretty at 3, and a lot of times your opponent will just perfect guard the Daikaiser, and then you have to hit a grade 3 and a crit. But so it's like they can afford to get to take the hit if possible, as long as you don't hit a crit. But with Laurel, when you have Laurel on the field, it makes it so it's a no hit situation. Because if not,
if they hit, I mean, you're gonna. If you go through with it, then
I get a restand Daikaiser and use it again. I can potentially blow something else up. So it creates that level of pressure that, I mean, this Commander Laurel, I feel, is really what creates the pressure in the deck. And Reverse Daiyusha, just that finisher.
It is. Hammer down. Oh yeah, it's the hammer.
And yeah, so
it's a hammer. It really is.
So basically, this deck lives off pressuring, making your opponent sweat. So I think out of 5, I'm gonna give this deck a 5 out of 5.
I agree. 5.
5 out of 5. So
that was the wedding ring. That was the wedding ring.
He's taken, guys.
You gotta go 10 out of 10.
You gotta go 10 out of 10 on that one.
So next up for the next category, I don't think there's really much to talk about necessarily, but that's advantage. How much advantage does this deck produce for itself? So talking about how the deck produces advantage for itself, well, I'm not sure. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
So at least for advantage, whether we're looking at card advantage, that was the problem that Deep Please was having, was especially having to use Daiyusha. Sometimes you would lose out hand advantage a lot because you have to drop a bunch of cards to be able to. Yeah, so you're usually running Daiyusha. I'm running Dive Magnum now, but that's for different reasons. We'll get to that later. Hand advantage was a problem I think Deep Please was having for a long time. Yeah. But there's been a couple cards that, well, there's been one card in particular that's helped with that a lot, I think, and that's
Diebrave.
Diebrave's skill is when it's in the soul, you take it out of the soul to give your Vanguard the skill, Counterblast 1, draw a card. And that's something that was severely needed, is more...
It helps a way to help replenish hand size and such, and
especially since it is a D-Robo, that's the big thing. This deck lives off of D-Robos. Not a whole lot, but again, for Reverse Daiyusha skill, you need D-Robos on there. That's the big thing.
Now, when it comes to advantage itself, the deck really has, outside of Diebrave, they don't really have any other reliable cards that you normally run in the deck that helps produce advantage. Because it's kind of like what Lord Hafkin said at the beginning. You know, it's a lot of reward, but there's some risk. Especially, you know, if you're pressuring Laurel, it does require you to commit to your field. And overall, you know, the deck just doesn't have ways to draw extra cards for itself and produce it, just because, again, it makes up for that with its major pro of having a very high pressuring center Vanguard. So
and pre set 13 and pre the trial deck, the only thing that Deep Police really had was Operator Girl Mika.
Yeah.
Which was your generic Libra clone.
I think honestly the big card that can give advantage for them when it really works is Commander Laurel. Just being able to restand and just get extra twin drives. There are times where I had a huge hand size just because my opponent, I guess, was labeled let me Commander Laurel. But
sitting there reading a book about robots, okay.
Yeah, but Commander Laurel, of course, is not a reliable source necessarily for advantage. He's there for the pressure, but like I say, you know, with a lot of great pressure, it can lead to advantage if the deck's pressuring strategy works. But again, there can be consistency issues in terms of producing advantage off that pressure.
The other problem with Laurel is that he's a huge target. The minute he comes out, you expect him to get sniped.
Yeah.
So
he will get
the big thing the big thing about Laurel is don't commit him to, especially if you're going against Kagero. Now anything that can snipe.
Honestly,
units,
just don't call rear guards until you're able to go off with Laurel.
Yes, that's the big thing.
But in terms of advantage, the deck doesn't really have too much to do it. But I think
get
out of here. You're for another video. But I think overall, I'll give this deck a 2.5 out of 5. When like the Commander Laurel setup works, it works. But again, this deck just doesn't really build that advantage for it. But I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5.
I'll give it a 3, just because of my playstyle is a lot more aggressive than most people. So I know how to make. I don't know how to make the plays necessarily, but the play, you know, sometimes it's just easier to set up.
Okay.
It's learning how to set up the plays is the big thing about this deck.
All right, and moving on to the last but definitely not least category, consistency. Now, talking about consistency, well, simply put, how consistent is this deck? Well, when you're looking at consistency, well, you're looking at what the main focus of the deck is and what does it do to win. And, well, as Lord Hafrican mentioned, this deck centers on its center Vanguard, and in my particular build, of course, it just relies on the not only center Vanguard but pressuring a Laurel. So there's really not too many gimmicks and such that really makes this deck, you know, I guess you can say very situational. As long as you don't really have to rely on certain cards and such to get things going. So as long as you have one of your grade 3s, preferably the Break Ride, you get a Laurel, which I run 4 of in the deck. I mean, that's really all it is, and you don't even have to rely on Laurel a lot of times too either.
You don't necessarily need to rely on Laurel, and there's a lot of other cards in the deck that now give you a lot of help that you need. So one of the big helper cards, obviously, is I'll go through it.
Kaiser.
Kaizard. Oh, I love this card. I love this card just because it's an easy. His skill is when you ride on top of him, extra 5k. Pretty simple, but combine that with regular Daiyusha, that's an extra crit. And so throwing
Kaizard's also lesser Great Dai Kaiser.
Yeah. We won't talk about the rest of Great Dai Kaiser and all that goofy stuff right now. But that provides a lot of early. That was the other thing that I think Deep Police was missing, was a mid game. There wasn't a whole lot of mid-game pressure.
Outside of the Laurel, but now you have a little bit more plays that are very easy to do because you have a lot of cards that are like they self-enable themselves. You don't really have to say you have to have this card along with this card. It's like this card kind of, you have like cards by themselves that can produce.
Like Kaizar, he's like, okay, I ride extra 5k. Got Daiyusha, cool. That's super. That's one of the cards. One of the other ones I really like is it's actually a promo card.
Dai Barrett.
Oh, I was so happy when this came out. It's Counter Blast 1 plus 4k, and if your Vanguard hits, retire something. Deep Police has only one other card. I'm pretty sure one other card that can get rid of other cards on the field, and that would be Enigman Cyclone. Cyclone.
So yeah.
Cyclone Joker. Yeah. That's why I put this stuff in. That's extreme, actually. But you know, it's giving Deep Police a way to build the soul, which if you're playing Great Daiyusha is good.
So it helps with the consistency.
It helps with the consistency a whole lot, and it gives you a way to blow up stuff. It's pressure, it's power, and it's straight power to be able to blow up stuff. That's something you sorely needed.
And again, a major point I like with the Deep Police units is they're self-producing. meaning that they're kind of like, you know, one card plays. They're not really, you have to have this or this or this kind of setup. It's more like they can just enable themselves without having to rely on any pieces. And a major thing that I like with consistency in this deck is just like how I always say is, you know, I always tend to, you know, I guess a deck doesn't really seem good in my eyes if you rely on having if you rely too much like on your breaker ride. Like if you're playing a breaker ride deck and you feel like you're relying on it too much in terms of the source of your plays, I feel like the deck's gonna suffer with consistencies. Now, while I say Daiyusha, he is a win condition for the deck, but he's a win more, which late in terms, you don't have to rely on a Daiyusha to win your games. Reverse Daiyusha is good.
You can sit on Reverse Daiyusha the entire game, and you are going to scare somebody, but they're gonna really take their time putting you at 4. They're gonna wait till they're ready, and you can use that to your advantage by pressuring them the entire game.
By sitting on Reverse Daiyusha.
Just sitting on Reverse Daiyusha and just pressuring with all the other cards.
So the main point really is that you don't really have to necessarily rely on having a certain grade 3 to ride first. Either or is fine. So that's one thing I really like with certain decks. That's what I think really helps make a deck competitive, is just having that consistency of just pretty much making the most of any card you have. You don't have to rely a lot on things. So when it comes to consistency, just for how the simplicity it is, just to set up the main focus of the deck strategy, I'm gonna give consistency a 4 out of 5 for Reverse Daiyusha.
I will also give it a 4 out of 5, maybe even a 4.5 out of 5.
4.25.
I usually,
and a half.
And you know, the big thing is with the amount of grade 3s we have, I've never gotten grade locked, except for like one game that I can remember the last like year with this deck.
But that's why you have this as insurance.
Yeah, insurance card.
But yeah, there you have it, guys.
Robot.
So there you have it, guys. As of course, a big thank you to Lord Half-a-Can for featuring his graceful presence here.
Graceful?
I don't know.
It's more gigantic loudness, but there's a difference there.
I guess that's another way to put it. But yeah, as always, guys, feel free to leave a comment down below for especially for any D-Police players, fellow D-Police players out there. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Let us know your personal thoughts and such, and definitely leave a like on this video, please.
Like if you got sacked by this deck.
Yeah, like if you've been sacked.
No. You're gonna make them dislike it. No, don't. I'm just kidding. But yeah, don't forget to also subscribe as well. And as always, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.
Extreme.